On a breezy Saturday afternoon in Columbus, Ohio, where Broad Street meets Lincoln Avenue, an unassuming family-owned convenience store stood as a quiet cornerstone of the community. Shelves lined with canned goods, candy bars, and the faint scent of fresh coffee created a cozy atmosphere for shoppers. Among them was Evelyn Carter, a petite woman in her late 70s whose floral print dress and gentle demeanor radiated warmth. She moved slowly, carefully selecting items from her modest grocery list: bread, eggs, and her favorite tea. Unbeknownst to Evelyn, she had caught the attention of someone far less innocent, a towering figure lurking near the aisles. Dressed in a faded hoodie and scuffed sneakers, his predatory gaze locked onto her loosely dangling handbag. But what he didn't know was that Evelyn wasn't alone. Outside, her son Derek sat in his reliable pickup truck, watching over her like a guardian angel. At 45, Derek carried a fierce protectiveness inherited from years of witnessing his mother's sacrifices while raising him and his siblings. As Evelyn hummed softly to herself, absorbed in her shopping, Derek noticed something amiss, a shadowy presence trailing too close behind her. His instincts screamed danger. The man hesitated momentarily before making his move, inching closer under the pretense of browsing shelves. Inside, Evelyn reached for a box of tea, her hands trembling slightly from arthritis. It was then that the thief struck, attempting to snatch her purse. The sharp tug caused Evelyn to stumble, but she clung to her bag with surprising tenacity. Her voice trembled yet remained resolute. "Let go of my purse." Meanwhile, Derek burst through the store's entrance, his boots pounding against the tiled floor. "Hey! What the hell do you think you're doing?" he bellowed, his commanding tone silencing the room. The thief froze briefly before turning to face Derek, who charged forward with unmistakable determination. Customers stepped back, sensing the tension escalating. When the thief yanked harder, pulling Evelyn further off balance, Derek intervened without hesitation. With a vice-like grip on the man's arm, he growled, "I said let go. This ain't got nothing to do with you," the thief spat, sneering defiantly. "That's my mother," Derek replied, his voice icy and unwavering. "You just made it my business." Despite the thief's attempts to break free, Derek held firm, his strength forged by years of hard labor. The two men faced off, their standoff crackling with intensity. This wasn't just about a stolen purse, it was about protecting family, standing up to injustice, and proving that some battles are worth fighting. And as the scene unfolded, one thing became clear: this thief had picked the wrong woman, and the wrong son, to mess with. Their muscles tightened, as though bracing for an oncoming storm. Evelyn staggered backward, clutching her handbag tightly against her chest, her breaths shallow and uneven. "Are you okay, Mom?" Derek asked without breaking eye contact with the man. His voice was calm, but beneath it simmered a seething fury that couldn't be ignored. "I'm fine, baby," Evelyn managed, her voice trembling yet resolute. Just be careful." The store had fallen into an eerie silence. Mateo, the young cashier, stood frozen behind the counter, his wide eyes darting nervously between the two men. A few other shoppers huddled near the back, phones in hand but uncertain whether to call for help or capture the unfolding drama on video. The thief, now visibly agitated, squared up to Derek, towering at over 300 pounds, but he hadn't anticipated this level of resistance. Derek, however, showed no sign of intimidation. He planted himself firmly, his broad shoulders and unwavering gaze signaling that he wasn't backing down. "You don't want to do this," Derek warned, his tone steady but laced with menace. "Walk out now, and we can end this here." But the man didn't listen. With a guttural grunt, he lunged forward, aiming to shove Derek aside. The sudden movement caught everyone off guard, but not Derek. Reacting instinctively, he sidestepped the attack, using the thief's momentum against him. The man stumbled forward, crashing into a display of potato chips. Bags spilled across the floor as he struggled to regain his footing, his face contorted with rage. Derek didn't give him time to recover. Stepping forward, he positioned himself squarely between the thief and his mother. "You're not touching her," he said, his voice like steel. The thief charged again, swinging wildly this time. Derek ducked swiftly, his reflexes razor-sharp, and countered with a solid punch to the man's gut. The impact left the thief gasping for air, doubling over. "You don't mess with family," Derek declared, his words slicing through the tense silence like a blade. But the man wasn't finished. Despite his size and obvious disadvantage, he lunged once more, grabbing a bottle from a nearby shelf and swinging it toward Derek. Evelyn let out a horrified scream, and Mateo ducked behind the counter. Derek barely managed to block the blow, his forearm taking the brunt of the impact. Pain shot through him, but he refused to falter. In one fluid motion, he twisted the bottle from the man's grip and tossed it aside. Then, with a final decisive punch, he sent the thief sprawling to the floor. The man groaned, slumping defeated onto the tiles. For a moment, no one moved. The only sounds were Evelyn's shaky breaths and the faint hum of the store's air conditioning. Derek stood over the man, his chest heaving, fists still clenched. "Done?" he asked, his voice cold and unyielding. The thief didn't respond, but the fight had drained from his eyes. He nodded weakly, too winded and bruised to argue further. Even as the immediate danger subsided, the weight of what had transpired hung heavy in the air. Everyone grappled with their emotions. The thief lay crumpled on the floor, his labored breathing filling the otherwise silent space. Derek's fists slowly unclenched as the adrenaline coursing through him began to ebb. Turning to his mother, his expression softened. "You okay, Mom?" he asked again, his voice quieter now. Evelyn nodded, her grip on her handbag loosening slightly. "I'm fine, Derek," she said, her voice steadier this time. "Thank God you were here." Derek placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "It's over now." But his eyes flicked back to the man on the ground, his guard still up. Mateo, the cashier, finally found the courage to move. Reaching for the phone behind the counter, he dialed 911 with trembling fingers. "The police are on their way," he announced, his voice shaky but audible enough for everyone to hear. The other shoppers, still huddled near the back of the store, began murmuring among themselves. One of them, a woman in her 30s, stepped forward cautiously, holding her phone. "I got everything on video," she said firmly. "This guy doesn't get away with this." Derek gave her a nod of appreciation but remained focused on Evelyn, who had finally lowered her handbag and started regaining her composure. She glanced at her son, her eyes filled with gratitude and pride. "You didn't have to do all that," she said softly. "But I'm glad you did," she added. Derek chuckled lightly, trying to ease the tension. "You raised me better than to just stand around, didn't you?" The thief groaned from the floor, attempting to push himself up. Derek immediately stepped closer, his posture stiffening. "Don't," he warned sharply. The man froze, clearly understanding that any further defiance would only worsen his predicament. Minutes later, the wail of sirens echoed outside, and 2 police officers entered the store. They quickly assessed the situation, their eyes darting between the disheveled thief, the scattered bags of chips, and the visibly shaken Evelyn. One officer approached Derek. "What happened here?" he asked, pulling out a small notepad. Derek explained calmly, pointing to the security cameras mounted near the ceiling and the bystander who had filmed the incident. The officer nodded, jotting down notes while his partner cuffed the thief, who offered no resistance as he was hauled to his feet. As the thief was led outside, he shot one last look at Derek, not anger or defiance this time, but pure defeat. Derek met his gaze with quiet resolve, ensuring the man understood he'd picked the wrong person to cross. The officer turned back to Evelyn. "Ma'am, are you okay? Do you need medical assistance?" Evelyn shook her head. "I'm fine." The officer gave a curt nod, then turned his attention to Derek. "You did the right thing here," he said, his tone measured but sincere. "But we'll need your statement at the station." Derek nodded without hesitation. He understood it was part of the process. Before leaving, though, he turned to his mother. Concern etched on his face, he asked softly, "Do you want me to call someone to stay with you?" Evelyn smiled gently, her hand rising to pat his cheek. "You've done more than enough, son," she reassured him. "Go take care of what you need to. I'll be fine." Even as the police car pulled away, Derek couldn't shake the lingering weight of what had just transpired. It wasn't merely a confrontation, it was a stark reminder of how swiftly life could test one's courage. That evening, Derek and Evelyn found themselves seated in her small yet cozy living room. The earlier tension had dissipated, replaced by quiet reflection. The television hummed softly in the background, though neither paid it much mind. A warm cup of tea rested untouched in Evelyn's hands as she glanced over at her son. "You know," she began, breaking the silence, "I wasn't scared, not really. Not with you there." Derek looked at her, his expression softening. "I'm glad I was here, Mom. But still, you shouldn't have had to go through that at all." Evelyn nodded thoughtfully, her gaze drifting toward the window where streetlights cast long shadows across the floor. "Life has a way of testing us, doesn't it? Sometimes in ways we don't expect." Derek leaned back on the couch, exhaling slowly. "Yeah, but today reminded me of something you taught me, to stand up for what's right, no matter how hard it gets. I guess that lesson stuck more than I realized." A faint smile spread across Evelyn's face. "It's not just about standing up for what's right, Derek. It's about standing up for each other, family, friends, even strangers. When you can help, you do it. That's how we make the world better." Derek nodded, feeling the weight of her words settle deep within him. The day's events had shaken him, yes, but they had also reinforced something he'd always known: the strength of their family wasn't rooted solely in their bond, it was in their shared values. As the night stretched on, they sat together in companionable silence, the warmth of their connection filling the room. Eventually, Derek rose from the couch, stretching his legs. "I'll head out, Mom. But if you need anything at all, you call me, okay?" Evelyn reached up, squeezing his hand affectionately. "I will, baby. And thank you, for everything." As Derek walked to his truck, he paused to glance back at the house where he'd grown up. The day's events had been intense, no doubt, but they had also served as a poignant reminder of why he fought so hard, for her, for his family, for the life she had worked tirelessly to provide. Life would continue to throw challenges their way, he knew that much. But as long as they had each other, they'd always find a way through. This story isn't just about protecting what belongs to you, it's about the love and courage that define family. When we stand together, we remind the world that strength comes in many forms. If this story moved you, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe for more. Together, let's celebrate the everyday heroes who remind us what truly matters.